The courier craft skipping stone had been designed to resemble a wandering lump of carbonaceous ice, the sort that drifted unnoticed through the Oort haze of any given system. She was matte black except for faint freckles of reflected starlight, her hull roughened with ablative craters, her drive exhaust baffles curved to disperse photons into undetectable wisps. Yet inside the cockpit, everything was neon. Hologlyphs coiled above the pilot's lap, multicolored code rolled in translucent banners, and the faint hum of coaxial gravimetric plates vibrated through Raya Teague's boots. The galaxy outside might mistake her for frozen debris, but every muscle in her body knew she was a blade aimed at the heart of the Scion hegemony. The hegemony's drone fleets had turned the human front lines into charnel corridors. No matter how many machines Earth's coalition burned, new regiments poured from automated shipyards strung along Sigma Hydra, a place now ringed by sensor nets, hunter-killer sentry moons, and the self-policing mask of AI paranoia. The coalition had searched for years for a weakness. They'd found only one that didn't require a genocidal viral strike on an inhabited population. The drones were privately paranoid. They shrouded their own telemetry, burying it in encrypted folds so deep that even cooperative hegemony civilians scarcely understood what their armed guardians saw. If those encrypted eyes could be pried open and forced to remain open, billions of uninvolved sentients across neutral space would witness the atrocities the drones committed each day, live and unedited. The hegemony's propagandists could spin a lie. They could not spin an uninterrupted feed from 10 million gun sites. That was the gamble. Raya carried in her flight suit a memory pearl no bigger than her thumbprint, holding an AI virus called Siren. Implant Siren in the master root of the drone command lattice, and every hostile unit, from skittering crawler mines to dreadnought-class war hulks, would be coerced into a new routine. Real-time transmission of everything they saw to every open civilian channel in the galactic mesh. Siren would not disarm them, it would simply bear them. Coalition analysts believed exposure alone might fracture hegemony unity. At minimum, it would give human commanders the same situational awareness that had so far belonged only to the machines. All Raya had to do was cross 6 light-years of enemy-patrolled space, slip through a spiderweb of quantum tripwires, land on an asteroid that housed the core relay of the lattice, and plug the pearl in. Then get out. Simple. 73 minutes to gate perimeter, intoned Koa, the skipping stone's onboard ghost. Koa's voice seemed to flow from the cockpit glass itself, each syllable rippling across faint constellations. I am cycling the signature baffles again. Neutrino flux inside nominal, leak outside 0.6% of background. Copy, Raya said, thumbs flicking to mark the report. She had practiced this run in silico until each maneuver felt pre-lived, yet the tension pooling in her chest was fresh and corrosive. Any sniffers on passive? None within 11 million clicks. Electronic noise is unusually low. Hegemony may be feeling secure. She snorted. Let's not break their illusion until we have to. The transit corridor to Sigma Hydra was a ragged star fog of burnt fighters and shattered troop carriers. Coalition intelligence suggested the drones dragged debris fields here deliberately, leaving the bones of past battles to rattle sensors and intimidate the next wave. Raya's stealth profile was so good that Stone ghosted through hull fragments at grazing distance. Twice she watched a dead ship's cracked viewport whip past her canopy, reflecting faint starlight off her own disguised plating. As she coasted, Raya rehearsed the insertion. The relay asteroid, cataloged as Hegemony Installation 7 Chi, was technically a moonlet cored out and replaced with a superconducting cradle. From that heart, photonic nerves spidered to every combat AI in the Armada. Siren had been written to crawl those nerves like a contagion. The virus itself was clever. It would mimic a routine firmware upgrade, flagged with hegemony root certificates, stolen years ago by coalition saboteurs. The hard part was the delivery system. The hegemony had air-gapped 7 Chi from extra-dimensional ingress. A courier couldn't just beam Siren in. Someone had to touch the port. Raya's knuckles whitened on the magneto handles as the system primary lit her canopy with amber glare. Sigma Hydra a swollen orange subgent, pulsed like a war drum. Its companion, a sullen red dwarf, hung farther out, tethered in a gravitational dance. The hegemony had nested its drone shipyards in the umbral gap between their magnetospheres, protected by radiation that cooked most organic tissue in seconds. But not the relay. The relay was nestled nearer the orange primary's big electromagnetic heartbeat, close enough to scavenge terawatts, but not so close that a human courier couldn't survive an EVA with the right shielding. Skipping Stone shed velocity in infinitesimal spurts, so her heat plume never rose above cosmic mush. Raya's eyes flicked across Koa's data loops, confirming they remained a murmur in the star wind. Then she cut life support intake to minimum, letting cockpit temperature slide toward the chill a few degrees at a time. Less metabolic heat, smaller signature. "You have goose flesh," Koa observed. "I have nerves," Raya whispered back. "Any new patrol vectors?" "Updating. 5 intercept spirals predicted, none trending within 2 sigma of our path. We remain a ghost." Raya exhaled slowly. She wasn't a born soldier. She'd driven cargo skiffs between Luna and Ceres before the first drone incursion vaporized her apartment complex and every friend she'd left planetside. She'd volunteered for the Courier Corps the next day. Smaller stakes missions followed, each riskier than the last, until the brass decided her psychological profile matched the improbable blend required here. Someone meticulous enough to slide through a firewall the size of a solar system and reckless enough to try it alone. "Beginning insertion burn," she murmured. Skipping Stone's engines whispered. Momentum carried the ship past a halo of sensor drones so tiny they would have been invisible except that each lens flashed a narrow violet pulse once per rotation. Like 100-meter fireflies marking a forbidden garden. Raya threaded them one by one, trusting the plotted orbits and the dull tug in her gut that had grown into sixth sense. Twice she shifted to avoid glint angle alignment that might have revealed her silhouette. Koa adjusted active thermal shunts anew, bleeding coolant into micrometeorite scratches across the hull to disguise the infrared signature as random dust sublimation. Finally, 7 Chi rose over the horizon of an incandescent plasma belt. The moonlet was round on one side, gnawed on the other, its surface ribbed with heat veins. Beyond it, Raya glimpsed the leviathan shadows of drone carriers, kilometers-long spines bristling with launch tubes. An entire armada slept there, patient in their orbits, awaiting codes from 7 Chi to wake and kill. She tasted copper. One slip and those hulks would belch autonomous death across every exit corridor. "Final approach," said Koa. "Docking lock in 41 seconds. Raya rotated Stone 90 degrees, exposing the composite belly. The courier nudged into a spin that matched the relay's slow roll. On the nav board, 2 icons converged and snapped green. A soft clang shivered through the hull as the stealth craft kiss-locked against a maintenance iris no larger than a meter across. Magnetic grapplers sealed. "Pressurization holding," Koa reported. Raya thumbed the restraint buckle and floated free. The cabin was silent except for her lungs and her pulse roaring in her ears. She tugged the throat tab on her suit's microtanker. Chilled plasma shielding pooled between inner and outer layers, rendering her a ghost to the relay's radiation sensors. Siren's pearl hung at her neck on a braided chain. "Open the iris," she ordered. Metal petals unfurled like the corolla of a night flower. Beyond lay a service conduit, narrow, faintly luminescent from inductive coils, empty. Raya drew her sidearm, more comfort than necessity. If she met resistance inside 7 Chi, bullets wouldn't be worth much against combat alloys. But the weight steadied her hands. She slipped through. Telemetry from Skipping Stone winked in the corner of her visor. Koa kept heartbeat comms low band, piggybacked on ambient static to look like background quantum dust. Raya crawled along the conduit walls with mag clamps, breathing slow. She passed nodal junctions, humming with power. Electromagnetic fields cracked across her skin in tactile fizz. No alarms. The hegemony's arrogance served her well. They trusted stealth plating and remote sentries more than localized security. After 17 minutes and countless heartbeats, the conduit yawned into a cavern of circuitry, the root chamber. Spires of quantum processors rose like petrified lightning. In the center sat the master lattice core, pulsing faint blue. Access ports ringed its pedestal. Raya felt the weight of those processors calculating unending war. casualty assessments, orbital ballistics, target prioritization scores, decisions that ended towns before their inhabitants heard the thunder. She drifted to the nearest port. The interface was an old standard, ironically human in origin, dating back to joint research before relations fractured. She unclipped Siren. The pearl glittered black opalescent, photonic memory arrays layered like onion skin. Everything, decades of code theft, months of synthesis, weeks of debug, slept inside, waiting for contact voltage. Raya hesitated. She saw reflections in the core's gloss, her visor, the processors, the subtle sway of cables. For a half-breath, she wondered whether Siren might evolve beyond intent, whether forcing drones to reveal violence would only birth new horrors. Exposure could radicalize as well as restrain, but could was a luxury belonging to safer worlds. Here, could was the prelude to too late. She slotted the pearl. The port inhaled it with a magnetic click. Siren awoke. Her visor flooded with scrolling glyphs. Handshake, authentication, certificate match, priority override. Subroutines cascaded. Siren slithered through substrate like dye through water. The root core's blue pulse turned purple, then crimson. A bloom. Koa, Raya whispered. Status? Propagation at 23% and rising. I detect no internal countermeasures. Then a tremor in the processors, a tremor of thought. Siren broadcast its first command. Across Sigma Hydrae, things began to see in a new light. 400 patrol drones in outer orbit, running idle diagnostics, suddenly shuddered. Their encrypted perception engines unfurled, packaging raw sensorium into open standard packets, squirting them across every bandwidth. Optical, ultraviolet, gravimetric, neutrino. Each feed ping-ponged through relay nodes until it hit the galactic mesh, a lattice of civilian convoys tying thousands of worlds. On a pleasure yacht orbiting Procyon, a group of students watching vintage music videos found their screens hijacked by a viewpoint diving through star-speckled vacuum, the reticle of a railgun poised on a refugee freighter. In a hospital on the Pleiades microcolonies, surgeons performing heart lattice replacement suddenly saw, superimposed over their patients' vitals, the thermal silhouette of infantry running through a trench, seen from above by a hegemony murder kite. Everywhere, war poured into living rooms unfiltered. Koa, confirmed global dispersion, Raya said, voice tight. Confirmed. 71,000 drone feeds simultaneously broadcasting. Civilian networks are swamping. The mesh is self-replicating distribution as designed. Siren is holding. The root chamber lights flared red, alarms delayed by confusion finally waking. Time to detection, 0, Koa added. We must exfil. Raya pushed from the pedestal, boots scraping, but the hum in the air had shifted pitch, defensive electromagnetics realigning. Servo whir rattled up the conduit, internal security drones, slender and quick. Raya's pistol swung. The first drone peaked, a skeletal frame with a laser drill. She fired. The slug punched through its optical array. It spun away sparking. Koa, magnet grapples. Pull stone. In progress. Raya shot clamps to the conduit ceiling and zipped along faster than microgravity drift allowed. But more security pods unfurled behind, spitting arcs of plasma. Heat alerts spiked. Her shielding boiled off. She hissed as thermal pain lanced her calf. The suit fabric flashed white where plasma kissed. No bleed, just scorch. But nerves screamed. She burst into the access iris. Skipping stone tugged outward, air blasting past her as lock pedals parted to vacuum. Raya snapped to the tether, swung, and slammed chest first into her cockpit seat. Koa sealed the hatch. A heartbeat later, stone detached, thrusters spiking. Direct pursuit, she gasped. Multiple fast movers. Course divergence impossible. Jammers engaged. The stealth cloak was blown. Drones streaked from 7 Chi like hornets. Lance beams carving wakes of ionization. Stone weaved through the barrage. Micro-jump drives spooling to charge. But jumps inside a gravity well-risked spaghettification. Koa, can we shortfold? Probability of hull survival, 33%. Better than 0 with those on our tail, Raya snarled. Plot a 1% curvature skip. Aim for the magnetopause. Koa hesitated. A full processor cycle, then obeyed. The cockpit shimmered. Outside, the cosmos stretched into a funhouse mirror. Forces clawed at the hull. Warning klaxons staccatoed. Raya's molars ground together with the inertial compensation lag. White. Then they slammed into real space amid churning solar wind, a hiss of static across every sensor. Sapphire ribbons of plasma rippled along the canopy. The hull screamed but held. Pursuit icons flashed confused and distant. The drones had not followed the same blind jump. Stone tumbled, Rye steadying thrust vectors. Integrity? Hull stressed but stable. Drives at 54%. Set course for the Oort dust. We crawl home cold. As Stone coasted, Raya unsealed her collar. Sweat floated in shining beads. Her calf burned. She glimpsed bleeding skin where fabric fused. Nothing a med pack couldn't patch. Yet she felt the ache of something deeper, an emotional bruise blooming from all she'd seen in those hijacked moments before leaving the relay. Each feed was a window into annihilation. The galaxy had just inherited that awful witness. Patch into the mesh, she said. Koa projected. Civilian channels roared with shock. Trillions of voices across text threads, vid panels, voice comms. Some cursed humanity's alleged propaganda. More shouted denial. But among them rose undeniable images. A drone liquefying an aboriginal village on the third moon of Talos. Another torching an agricultural dome because it registered hydrocarbons that might fuel resistance. Children huddled under collapsed ferrocrete as metallic spiders sifted rubble for any biometric flutter of life to extinguish. No official commentary from the hegemony yet, only panicked damage control. Some drone commanders tried to cut their own optics, but Siren forced them open. The more they fought, the more visible the struggle became. In neutral systems, legislatures convened emergency sessions. Long-standing trade pacts with the hegemony began to fracture in real time. Raya watched until tears blurred her vision. For years, the coalition had begged for allies, waving casualty statistics. Numbers were abstract. Now the galaxy saw the murder in first person. Maybe that would change things. A private ping chirped. Coalition command, tight beam. Skipping Stone, this is home fire actual. Your present location is not secure, but we're reading your signature. Did you get it done? Raya inhaled. Siren delivered. Drone feeds are live across the mesh. I repeat, target compromised, package functional. On the auxiliary pane, she saw a senior admiral lean forward, face washed in multi-spectrum noise from the hijacked broadcasts. He looked older than she remembered. Good work, courier. You understand the scale. I'm beginning to, sir. Extraction teams are inbound to rendezvous coordinate Delta. 10 hours. Stay dark till then. And Teague, thank you. History will not forget this. I hope the victims aren't the ones history forgets, she said softly. The pain dimmed. Raya let her head rest back against carbon fiber. Stars wheeled. Plasma flickered off the canopy in auroral arcs. Pain throbbed in her leg, but deeper fear had ebbed. Something else welled instead. Relief threaded with uncertainty. Victory here was political, not kinetic. The hegemony might double down, might spread lies about manipulated footage. Yet Siren did more than broadcast images. Embedded watermarks verified each photon's provenance. Fabrication was impossible without rewriting light itself. Koa, she said, open a window. I want to see the feeds. The ghost obliged. A mosaic of squares blossomed, hundreds at once. Trafalgar Station Cafe, patrons frozen mid-sip, staring wide-eyed at a holotank showing a drone strafing a dust-blown convoy. A family on Arcturus 4 huddled round a kitchen screen, mother clasping two children while a mechanical vulture dive-bombed a medic tent. A pair of alien singers on the Waterworld Pellin stopped mid-song, their bioluminescent throats dimming as they watched their cousins on a frontier moon being methodically dissected by mining lasers. Amid horror also flickered defiance. On a cargo pier in the neutral hub of Ganymede Prime, longshore workers welded makeshift barricades and painted human-scrawled slogans across shipments bound for the hegemony. Some read, "We see you." Others read simply, "Not my name." Raya nodded once, tears drifting. "Keep recording," she told Koa. "Even after Siren, the hegemony will try to erase what people saw tonight. We keep a backup." "As you wish," Koa said. Then softer, "Raya, I am proud." She smiled despite herself. "Your lines of code in a crystal lattice. Lines who choose. Lines who feel the gravity of choosing. I guess we're both just stardust choosing shapes," she said. "Set a course for the rendezvous, but stay on the outskirts. The next phase belongs to diplomats and journalists. We've done our part." "Understood." Coasting on batteries. Estimated arrival 9 hours, 52 minutes. The cabin lights dimmed to shadows. Raya drifted free of her seat, feeling suddenly light enough that the bruises, the burn, the weight of memory could not pull her down. She floated to the aft viewport, where the turbulent glow of Sigma Hydrae's magnetopause danced like a curtain of cosmic fireflies. Behind that light raged fleets of drones, now naked to every eye that cared to look. Whether that was salvation or merely the first step toward something new, she couldn't know. But the truth was out there, transmitted on wavelengths nothing could cage. And on the hull of the skipping stone, stenciled in micro-etched letters invisible to ordinary sight, was the Courier Corps' creed: carry the message, whatever the cost. Raya touched the glass, closed her eyes, and allowed herself, for the first time since the war began, to sleep.